What's up, guys? It's Ron from Ron Ray Law, and this video is going to be about the recent squatters' laws. Okay, this is an incredible violation of the law. It's a violation of personal property rights, and frankly, it just pisses people off. So if you haven't seen some of this news, there's been a lot of videos lately where squatters are going into somebody's house and they're living there without the owner's permission. They don't have a lease, they're not paying rent, and sometimes it's completely unbeknownst to the actual owner that somebody is living there. Now, if you're in the residential space as an investor, squatting is nothing new. This has been around for years, and the people have developed a strong body of law about how to deal with squatters. Typically, there is a delineation between police trespass, criminal trespass, versus an eviction of a lawful or formerly lawful tenant of a property. However, the latest turn of bizarro world with our government has produced this situation where squatters can go into somebody's house and stay there for months at a time without the police physically removing them. And I understand it. I think on Twitter there's been a lot of this back and forth. People have been talking about it. And finally, Florida actually has done something about it. So this video is going to talk a little bit about squatters and how to deal with them as a landlord, both on residential and commercial industrial properties, because it's not unique to residential. There are squatters in industrial warehouses every single day. What did the law pass? So let's take a look. We've got a little summary here from the Florida Senate. Property owners have increased incidents of squatters, and this is an optional new procedure to allow the sheriff to review the relevant facts and have a sheriff remove a unlawful squatter. And the problem with all this, again, is that it is taking a formerly judicial process where you have to file in front of the JP court, you're in a court of law, and it's putting it solely on the sheriff to review the evidence at hand and make a decision about kicking somebody out of their residence, whether they are lawful or not. And so we're going to dig into some of the laws because, frankly, I think that it's a little bit more nuanced. I get it. People are angry, and I'm going to get a lot of angry comments of people saying, Ron, how can you defend squatters? These are criminals. I get it, but the issue is that there is a remedy for squatters, and that's the eviction courts. And if eviction was a faster, more cost-effective process, I don't think you'd hear about squatters in the news because nobody would get to stay for months at a time without paying rent. A landowner, a property owner, could go and file a regular eviction, and in front of a judge, you would have a chance to be heard and then summarily, very promptly evicted. So here's this bill that passed. It is really hard. A right to exclude others from entering, the unlawfully remain on residential real property. So let's get into it. The requesting person or the property owner, it's occupied as residential. So this law only applies to residential, and the reason for that is on industrial and commercial properties, there is no hesitation. Nobody has a lawful right to reside there, even if, I don't say even if they have a lease, but the sheriff is going to remove anybody from commercial properties if they're claiming that they are sleeping there. So that's another great reason why you should buy industrial warehouses. If you ever have squatters, you have homeless people living there, the cops are going to remove them without any need for any kind of this bill. They can't do this illegally to you. The real property was not open to members of the public. The property owner has directed the person to leave the property. They are not current or former tenants pursuant to a written or oral written agreement. This is the hard part. The sheriff is going to decide whether the occupant, the squatter, produces a legitimate oral rental agreement authorized by the property owner. And I can see all sorts of issues arising with what is a lawful property owner. You might have an LLC. You might have a limited partnership. You may have multiple owners through an inheritance. When somebody dies, it passes to 5 or 6 different owners. how does a tenant really understand whether the person they have an oral agreement to stay in the property is valid or not? They may not even be paying money, because if a property is vacant, they reasonably could say, you can live in this house for free as long as you take care of it. If you mow the lawn, or if you keep the lights on, that sort of thing. And it's going to be a very difficult decision for the sheriff, I think, on the spot to decide whether this squatter, this alleged squatter, is somebody who is validly staying there or not. And frankly, again, the cops are not paid enough to be making these types of legal decisions. They're going to be holding this kind of kangaroo court in the front yard of this house, and there's going to be a lot of wildly inconsistent applications of this law. No pending litigation, otherwise not immediate family owner, so you can't really call this on your brother or your kids. They submit a complaint by presenting a completed and verified complaint to remove person. So you're going to have to fill out forms. If you're the property owner, you still have to go through a legal process. I guarantee people are going to be hiring lawyers to use this process because they don't understand the paperwork. This is a penalty of perjury. The statements here are actually very, very detailed. We have no idea how they're going to be enforced. How do you decide whether the real property was open to members of the public at the time the unauthorized person entered? I don't even know what that means. It's like an open house. Was it not locked? Because that's also a pretty good defense is, the property wasn't secured and it was open to the public. I don't even know what this means. How do you decide if somebody's an immediate family member? If you're divorced, what if you're separated? Does that count? What's immediate? Like my immediate family or a cousin? Is a cousin an immediate family member? No litigation. That one's kind of easy. But however, the penalties are perjury, and it's probably going to be a misdemeanor for stating this. And the sheriff, without delay, will remove the people, hand delivery, identify them. You're going to have to pay them. So the property owners still have to pay money, but presumably this is just a faster quasi-judicial remedy. The person being removed also has treble damages to sue the property owner if any of those prior statements are found to be untrue. And because we don't know what the full extent of those statements means, because immediate family or open to the public, as a property owner, I'm going to be a little bit cautious. I'm not so sure that I would sign this statement exposing myself to financial risk, because there's going to be a whole new set of lawyers who sue property owners for unlawfully evicting a squatter. It's insane, but I'm telling you that this law produces a lot of consequences that nobody's really thought through. And the sheriffs are going to unequally enforce this because they're getting paid and it's above their pay grade. So they're going to have more power to remove people, and it's just going to put more power in the hands of cops and sheriffs, which I, for one, am not really in support of giving those people with a badge more power than they already have. And that's exactly what this does. I would rather, and this is my solution, you got to spend more money on the JP courts. Spend more money on the courts so that a normal eviction process is faster. This should be a matter of days for regular eviction courts. You should be able to get on the docket within a week, as opposed to the current system we have now, which may take 45 days, might take 6 weeks. And so I think this Florida law, as great as it's trying to be, is not going to solve the crux of the problem, which is the traditional eviction system is too slow. It's underfunded, but nobody wants to pay more taxes. We just want to be outraged at TikTok videos. So that's it for my take on this squatters' rights. Buy industrial, buy commercial, and just avoid all of these issues together.